What is up, golf fans, and welcome back to another episode of Fairways and Dreams, where this is every Tuesday, and this is Jeff Hardman, and I'm your solo host on this show as we talk about anything that I want to talk about as it pertains to the game of golf. And of course, this week, did anything happen? Was there any news in the game of golf? Yeah, there was a lot. Before we get into that, I do want to remind everyone we're going to have 3 shows for you this week. This show Tuesday, tomorrow we have the press podcast where we recap our Texas Children's Houston Open picks and take a look ahead to the Valero Texas Open. It is the last dance before the Masters. I'm excited. I hope you are too. And then Thursday, we do have a 2-man scramble already done in the books. It's ready for you on Thursday. I think you're going to like that. We'll tee it up tomorrow. But let's talk about the latest news in golf. There's 2 main stories. There's Gary Woodland and there's Tiger Woods. And so for the title of this podcast, I elected to say, you know what? I'm choosing to focus on Gary Woodland and not Tiger Woods. That's the title of the podcast. That's my approach to this show. It's not that I'm not going to talk about Tiger Woods. I will. Absolutely. You have to. He is one of the most polarizing figures in the game of golf and potentially in the sports world. You have to talk about Tiger Woods. But I'm going to choose to talk about Gary Woodland, because I think Gary Woodland is worthy of being talked about. And I think he should be the focus this weekend. And while you turn on social media and you see all these people, all these talking heads, and they're bringing up Tiger, I want to talk about Gary Woodland, not as much about Tiger Woods. It was a crazy week in golf. Gary Woodland's the focus, less on Tiger Woods. And in case you don't know, Gary Woodland's story is pretty remarkable. As a guy who grew up, he was thinking about being a basketball player, growing up in Kansas, finds and realizes that golf is his way to go. But understand that him winning the Houston Open by 5 shots, wire-to-wire winner, that's just the cherry on top for Gary Woodland. Let me read you this. This comes from Game 7 on Twitter, and they do a great job of kind of illustrating and writing what Gary Woodland's story really is. Because I think a lot of people, myself included, didn't know every detail of Gary Woodland's story. So Gary Woodland obviously just won the Houston Open. But 2.5 years ago, doctors cut a baseball-sized hole in his skull to remove a brain lesion. He spent 2 nights in the ICU. There was a chance that he would wake up paralyzed. This is the best comeback story in golf right now, and it's not even close. And like I said, I don't know if a lot of people are talking about it. Here's the full story behind Gary Woodland's recovery. In 2019, I know I remember this. I'm sure you do too if you're a golf sicko. Gary Woodland won the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach, and it was pretty remarkable. He finished 13 under and beat Brooks Koepka by 3 shots. At that point, Woodland had 4 PGA Tour wins, including a major, and was ranked 12th in the world. Then everything slowly fell apart. After the 2023 Masters, Woodland became consumed by fear. Not regular nerves, actual debilitating terror. He was afraid he was going to die, afraid something was going to happen to his children, afraid of falling to his death in his sleep. At the Memorial Tournament in June 2023, he woke up in his hotel room and clung to the mattress for an hour. He was convinced that if he let go, he would fall. His hands were trembling. He had no appetite. Spasms would jolt him awake at night. He was losing focus over putts. Forgetting what club he was holding mid-swing, an MRI revealed the cause. A lesion was growing on his brain. It was pressing directly on the part of his brain that controls fear and anxiety. Think about that. The thing responsible for every irrational terror he was experiencing had a physical medical explanation. His brain was literally being pressed into a constant state of fear. In September of 2023, Woodland had a craniotomy. Surgeons removed as much of the lesion as they could, roughly half, because it was pressed against the optic tract of his left eye. They cut off blood supply to the rest to try to stop it from growing. He walked out of the hospital 2 days later, started putting 2 days after that. He came back to the PGA Tour on January 2024 at the Sony Open, but he was nowhere near the same player. In 26 starts during 2024, he had 3 top 25 finishes. His best was a tie for 9th at the Shriners Children's Open. For a former U.S. Open champion, those are survival numbers. And anybody knew, and nobody knew the full extent of what he was dealing with. So let's take a quick pause. So here you have Gary Woodland, a U.S. Open champion. And up until this point, we knew about the brain lesion. We knew about his surgery. And we knew about his comeback. Everyone said, what a remarkable story. What a tremendous story. Gary Woodland's able to come back from that. Just crazy. However, no one really knew what was going on. So I continue. Because on top of the brain surgery and the recovery, Woodland had been diagnosed with PTSD. He kept it hidden for over a year. He described being hypervigilant on the course. A walking scorer once got too close from behind and startled him so badly that his vision went blurry and he forgot where he was. He would go into bathrooms between holes and cry. He would break down in the scoring trailer after rounds. He would sprint to his car in the parking lot just to hide it from everyone. He said he felt like he was living a lie, spending so much energy pretending to be okay that he had nothing left for actual golf. On March 9th, 3 weeks before the Houston Open, Woodland finally told the truth publicly. He sat down with Golf Channel's Rex Hoggard and revealed everything, the PTSD, the crying, the fear, all of it. He said after that interview, it felt like 1,000 pounds had been lifted off his back. Then he showed up at Memorial Park, the Houston Open. He opened with a 64, then a 63, then a 65, then a 67 on Sunday to close it out. 259 total strokes, a tournament record, 21 under par, 5 strokes clear of Nicolai Højgaard. Wire to wire, led every single round. His first win since the 2019 U.S. Open. Nearly 7 years between victories. Brain surgery, PTSD, 2 years of hiding in bathrooms between holes, and 1,000 pounds of weight he was carrying that nobody could see. This is a guy who was a basketball player first. He grew up in Topeka, Kansas, won state titles at Shawnee Heights High School, and played a year of college basketball at Washburn before he realized golf was his future. He won the Courage Award from the PGA Tour in 2025. He was the 7th player to ever receive it. And now, at 41 years old with titanium plates holding his skull together, he walked into Memorial Park 3 weeks after telling the world the truth about what he had been going through and played the best golf of the entire field for 4 straight days. And that tells you a lot. That tells you almost everything, doesn't it? Gary Woodland is such a remarkable story. I mean, it is amazing what this guy has been through. And it's not just the surgery. A lot of people will talk about the surgery. Oh my gosh, him even coming back on the PGA Tour was just remarkable. But there's so much more, so much that I didn't even know about. I doubt that the average golf fan even knew about. I mean, listen to some of these quotes from Gary Woodland himself. This was from the interview he did with the Golf Channel before the Players' Championship. He said, every week I come out and everyone's so excited and happy that I'm back. And I appreciate that love and support. But inside, I feel like I'm dying. I feel like I'm living a lie. And I don't want to waste energy on that anymore. He would continue, there's days where it's tough, crying in a scorer trailer, running to my car to hide it because I'm scared. I don't want to live that way anymore. If I'm feeling something, I want to let it out. I want to let it go. And then he finally said, I stepped aside. I pulled my caddy and said, this stuff is hitting me, man. You can't let anybody get behind me. Next thing you know, I couldn't remember what I was doing. My eyesight started to get blurry. And a hole later, I just said, Butch, I can't handle it. And I started bawling in the middle of the fairway. It was my turn to hit, and I couldn't hit. I think that the ultimate thing here about Gary Woodland that a lot of people need to learn about is that it's okay to feel a certain way. And it just seems like once Gary Woodland admitted that he's feeling a certain way was the moment that he was able to kind of be released from this burden. He said after winning on Sunday at the Houston Open that when he finally spoke up about it, it felt like 2,000 pounds were just removed from his shoulders. He continued, this is from Gary Woodland, doctors have said in an ideal world, I probably wouldn't be playing. But my response was, in an ideal world, I don't have PTSD. Golf is my dream. This is what I'm going to do. And no matter how hard it is, I'm going to play. So Gary Woodland wins. It was an emotional scene in Texas. I thought it was absolutely outstanding. Nicolai Højgaard, Minwoo Lee were in the final pairing or the final group with Gary Woodland. And to see them walking down the 18th fairway, and Minwoo Lee had talked with Nicolai Højgaard. Obviously, Gary Woodland's going to win the tournament. And they basically told each other, let's give him his moment. And as he's approaching the 18th green, that's Gary Woodland. Minwoo Lee and Højgaard are back, but Minwoo Lee is actually kind of like telling people to get up and trying to hype up the crowd. you don't see that very often on the PGA Tour. You will see golfers give someone the grace to maybe mark a 6-inch putt so that they can hole out and then celebrate. You'll see golfers give grace about letting someone walk ahead of them. But to see a player, Min Woo Lee, who won the tournament last year, trying to get the crowd going for this guy, for someone that's not him, I feel like that's kind of unheard of. But when you think about, you listen to Gary Woodland post victory at the Houston Open, and he talked about how he almost had a reoccurring PTSD moment or episode on the course this weekend. I want to say it was Saturday. He talked about how the security at these events, they're aware of what's going on. They have to be very vigilant with his wherever he is. And someone got real close to him. And they were just fans, but it spooked him. And he said it took him a while, but he was able to kind of get out of that. And he finished the round and was obviously able to finish the tournament. It's just, you hear this stuff and you just can't, I can't fathom. I'm sure that you, the listener, the viewer, can't fathom it either, what it would be like to be in such a pressure-packed situation and yet also have all this other pressure lumped on top of that. But on this podcast, I want to celebrate the positive. I view the Gary Woodland story is positive. It's uplifting. It's motivating. It's inspirational over the negative, which is Tiger Woods, a guy that was given the world and seems to be destined to throw it away. I want to focus on the positive. Gary Woodland, his story, it's remarkable. He needed a top 5 finish or a win to qualify to the Masters. Well, guess what, Gary Woodland? We're going to see you in 2 weeks because you're going to be teeing it up at Augusta National. How cool is that? It's rare that you see these stories about players playing their way into the Masters this close. You got to be in the top 50 of the official World Golf Rankings. You have to win a tournament, have to have a top 5 finish. It is so rare, and Gary Woodland did it. So today, I celebrate Gary Woodland, and I suggest you do too. When you're getting sucked into the Tiger Woods stuff, think about Gary Woodland. Go and watch his post-round interviews. He was getting emotional, as he should. Just phenomenal stuff. Phenomenal stuff. So let's get into the latest news in the game of golf. Obviously, as I mentioned, Gary Woodland wins the Houston Open, and he was a wire-to-wire winner, the second wire-to-wire winner so far this year. Justin Rose obviously did that. I believe it was at Torrey Pines. And what a great story. What a great story. But I do have to talk about, obviously, Tiger Woods. On Friday, it was like at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Tiger Woods was arrested in Florida. So what do we know about Tiger Woods' situation? So what we've heard, and this came from the sheriff down in Florida of the local area in Jupiter, where Tiger Woods resides. There was a truck. I think they were pulling a trailer, possibly. I think it was described as like a landscaping truck. And they were driving down the road, and all of a sudden in the rearview mirror, the truck sees a Land Rover flying up close. Land Rover, Range Rover, one of the other. I can't remember which one. Tiger Woods is driving this vehicle, and he tries to pass him on a 2-lane road. So now we're talking about something that's definitely illegal. And he clips the truck. The truck is fine, but it causes Tiger's vehicle to go on the driver's side door, and it comes to rest in that position. So there's these videos, there's these images of Tiger's vehicle on the driver's side. The 4 tires obviously are exposed. So is the undercarriage of the vehicle. Tiger Woods had to climb out of the passenger side window. Now, they did a breathalyzer on the scene. He blew a 0.00. So for those that are saying, oh my gosh, like he wasn't drunk, what the heck is going on? The sheriffs that were on the scene first, they felt that he was under the influence of some substance, likely in Tiger's case, pain medication, because the sheriff said that Tiger was very open about how he's had multiple surgeries, that he's in a constant state of pain, and that he has to take some of these medications. So they asked him to take a urine test, in which case he refused. So when he refused that, they had no other option in the state of Florida. They arrest that individual. They have to spend 8 hours in jail before they can be bailed out. And then Tiger Woods was bailed out after those 8 hours. Since that time, we have heard nothing. There has not been a Tiger Woods, at least with this being recorded, there has not been a Tiger Woods official statement. They have been completely hush hush on this. And this just days after it was reported that Tiger was going to play on the Champions Tour and the Champions Senior Open, and that he was going to be at Augusta National to at least open up the patch, which is a short course they're opening there at Augusta National. He would be at the Champions Dinner. And there's nothing to say that he's not going to be there for these events. But at the same time, Tiger could be facing jail time. Now, a lot of people have come out and talked about, that they're not necessarily in tune with what's happening in his specific case, but the judge, based on the judge and who sees and hears his case, they might look at his history. And in 2017, in a similar situation, he was unbelievably under the influence, we'll put it that way, of pain medication. It was so bad. I know that I saw on Twitter that it resurfaced. It was the video of Tiger being asked several questions when he was taking a breathalyzer. He was sucking air in instead of blowing air out, and he was out of it. And he was driving a vehicle. He wrecked that vehicle in 2017. You look at 2021 in California, a single car accident. Somehow, some way, the police officers on the scene don't administer any type of sobriety test. They don't test for any type of illegal substances or substances that could impair someone's driving. It was a huge gaffe, but still a single car accident that almost saw Tiger Woods lose his leg. So now you fast forward to 2026, and here we are again. Tiger gets into a car accident, and we're wondering what is going on, and we don't have those answers just yet. He refused the test. There's probably a reason why. Whether that was his lawyer that told him don't take any test, we don't know. We don't know. And I want to focus on the positive. I don't want to dwell on Tiger Woods, because Tiger, it just feels like the guy, it just feels like he needs help. I don't know what help he needs. I don't know where that help is going to come from. I'm not going to pretend to be a psychiatrist or someone that deals with rehabilitation or someone that even deals with addiction, because I'm sure that this guy who has a leg that's basically fused together below the knee, he's got his back that's essentially fused together. He's a mess. Physically, he's a mess. I'm sure there's a lot of pain involved. I just hope Tiger gets the help he needs. With this negative publicity, I don't know. If I were guessing, I bet we don't see him publicly at the Masters. Whether he's there, we don't know. I just think he's probably going to lay low for a while. Sad. It's sad. Because for as great as the story of Gary Woodland is, the demise of Tiger Woods remains to be one of the saddest stories in sports. So let's continue. Speaking of the Masters, there's a documentary coming out on Amazon Prime that is all about last year's Masters, and it's based on Rory McIlroy finishing the career Grand Slam and winning his first green jacket. There are some spicy little details in this between Rory and Bryson on the final day. There's been some clips. I think that this is something that is going to be a very good watch, especially if you're a Rory McIlroy fan. I love the Masters. I love all the pageantry about it. So I'll probably watch it and I'll probably enjoy it. But ultimately, there's a lot of people that think that this documentary should be held a little bit longer, wait 3 to 5 years, maybe even 10, then put it out there. I don't really care. I think they're trying to capitalize on the excitement about this tournament every single year. And so that is coming out for sure. Lastly, or next, I should say, the American Express. That's the tournament that Scottie Scheffler won this year. They have confirmed that they have a date in January of 2027. So you're probably thinking, Jeff, what does this have to do with anything? Why does it matter? Well, I'll tell you why it matters. There's a lot of people that are kind of looking ahead thinking this new tour schedule that everyone has been talking about, there was always rumors that it wouldn't start till February. That in February is when they would start, because that would be post Super Bowl, get as many eyeballs on it as possible. Well, according to this report that I saw online, that the American Express confirming a January 2027 date would suggest that they are at least going to be playing some golf in January on the West Coast at the American Express. Interesting stuff. So what's coming up this week? The Valero Texas Open at the TPC San Antonio, the Oaks course. That's going to be a lot of fun. And that is the last tournament before the Masters. The last chance for some people like Tony Finau and Ricky Fowler to get into the field at Augusta National the following week. We are not slated to see Scottie Scheffler. I said this last week. If you remember, I was getting ready to do my press podcast, and I just happened to check my phone, and that was when Scottie withdrew. Now, that was because his wife Meredith was expecting their second child. I have not seen or heard if they have had that child yet or not. But even if the child was born, Scottie is such a family guy. I just have to think that he's going to stay at home and be there with their other son and their family. The question becomes, if she doesn't have the child, if she didn't have the child last week, and if she doesn't have the child this week, what does he do at the Masters? Does he pull a Phil Mickelson? In case people forget, when Payne Stewart won the U.S. Open in that dramatic fashion at Pinehurst #2, the image that lasts forever, they have a statue there. He beat Phil Mickelson in that tournament to win the U.S. Open. Phil Mickelson was expecting their first child and wore a pager on, I don't know if it was him or his caddy, wore a pager that if his wife went into labor, he openly said, I am leaving the course. I don't care if I'm winning. I don't care. I am leaving. Would Scottie Scheffler even go to Augusta? Or would he say it's not important? What's important is my wife and our family? I don't know. I have a feeling that we're going to find out whether the child's been delivered yet or not soon enough. But I would expect Scottie, although he's not playing in the Valero this weekend, to be there at Augusta National for sure. All right, that does it for me. Like I said, I will be back tomorrow on the Press Podcast to give you my picks and predictions for this next week. We also have to take a look back. I did get a couple picks right last week. It's been tough going recently, just really difficult. We'll see if we can round into form before the first major. But you know, he finishes out. Be safe, be kind, and God bless. Have a great start to your week. We'll see you tomorrow.